Oprah Winfrey's ability to accurately read people was the foundation of her whole career. Her superpower is literally that. Therefore, everyone assumed Oprah had done her homework when that 2021 interview with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry aired. For example, you believe what Oprah is saying if she is sitting there nodding. Her credibility is that great. However, it's hardly coincidental that she has completely stopped talking about Meghan years later. And I'm not claiming that Oprah made any admissions. She hasn't. However, it says far more than a statement could when someone like her abruptly stops bringing you up, invites you into her social circle, or even just acknowledging you. You have to go back to the beginning, the May 2018 wedding, in order to truly get why everything feels strange now. And look, everyone watched that day, as I recall. Felt enormous. When Meghan Markle joined the royal family, it seemed like a significant change in the modern era. However, the story behind the scenes is entirely different. Eyebrows were raised in the palace just by the guest list, and they were huge ones. Because the guest list has real significance at royal weddings. It's about history, not glory. There were people from Catherine Middleton's real life who knew her before all the cameras when she married Prince William. It is intended to be that way. However, Meghan's list, which included George and Amal Clooney, Idris Elba, and Oprah herself, appear to be an award show lineup. The strange thing is that the majority of them had no personal acquaintance with her. Yes, that may sound absurd, but reports from inside the wedding claim that it was clear. People were genuinely asking each other how they knew the pair, and their responses weren't very compelling. It didn't feel like a close-knit community. It seemed carefully chosen. And that's when my viewpoint enters the picture. It appeared to be a setup rather than a wedding based on relationships. Meghan was clearly considering the long term and making contacts that would be important once she left the royal life. After all, who would you want on your side if you wanted to become powerful in Hollywood in the future? The biggest names, exactly. Now, Oprah was completely in favor at the time. She even emphasized how overpowering Windsor felt and how enormous everything was. She was clearly respectful to the organization. However, she was also keeping a watchful eye on everything. She is simply that. Apparently, not everything she observed was consistent with the fairy tale that was being told. Back then, there were already rumors of conflict over minor matters that suddenly turned into major ones. Personnel problems, last-minute demands, and tension behind the scenes. One recurring tale is that Meghan requested modifications to St. George's Chapel, such as changing the ambience, and the palace essentially shut it down right away. That may seem insignificant, but it's not in royal terms. It is not appropriate to enter a location with centuries of history and begin altering the production style. People began to sense that Meghan was treating this more like a project than a royal position. Even the entire tiara situation became really stressful because the dialogue generally ends when Queen Elizabeth II says nay. However, it didn't stop there. There was opposition, and when Prince Harry intervened to give Meghan what she wanted, energy, that didn't sit well at all. From then on, there were subtle but noticeable changes taking on behind the scenes. This is when things start to get interesting. Oprah was present for the mood, the excitement, and the contrast between what was being portrayed to the public and what was actually occurring, rather than the drama itself. She continued to support Meghan at the time, at least in public. However, based on how things transpired subsequently, it appears like Oprah saw things coming and chose to remain silent. Oprah Winfrey did not abruptly change her mind. People miss that. She didn't just wake up one day and say, "Yeah, I'm done." To be honest, the slowness of it adds to its realism. Because when someone like Oprah begins to withdraw subtly, it usually indicates that she has given it a lot of thought before acting. Let's fast forward to 2021 and the Meghan Markle and Prince Harry interview. This wasn't just another celebrity sit-down at the time. This was promoted as a worldwide event, as if the truth were finally being revealed. And Oprah was the ideal host. Sometimes people believe her intuition more than the facts. She has such a solid reputation. I recall thinking, okay, this is big, as I watched it. Harry was protective, Meghan was tearful, and Oprah was responding in real time. It was unadulterated. In retrospect, however, some parts don't hit the same. The claim of a covert wedding was the main one that later raised concerns. Meghan claimed that 3 days prior to the ceremony, they got married in private. At the time, it sounded lovely, but Justin Welby later revealed that the public wedding was actually the legal one. That's when things started to get messy, because Oprah's credibility is now in jeopardy in addition to Meghan's. It was she who provided a forum for that story. She didn't question it or contest it at the time. Additionally, the entire interview felt shakier when it was later corrected in public. If you are familiar with Oprah, she detests that. Their perception that she is getting the truth out of them when she is seated across from them is the foundation of her entire business. The reality, not a rendition or a show. Imagine, therefore, if you later discovered that some of the content you broadcast was inaccurate. That's a big hit. For someone like her, that is personal. Things just continued piling up after that. It wasn't a single error, but rather a number of little discrepancies that gradually came to light. And the more of that occurred, the more it appeared that Oprah had supported an incomplete story. Hollywood was also undergoing a change at the same period. The same people who were in the front row at that 2018 wedding are gradually disappearing. For instance, consider George and Amal Clooney. They were quite encouraging back then. There were even rumors that they offered Harry and Meghan their Lake Como home. That is genuine backing. It is not casual. However, George now appears at King Charles III related events. That's a change, and it's not a minor one. Not only that, but many A-list celebrities' quiet speaks louder than any criticism. No partnerships, no public endorsements, and no insinuations. The industry as a whole seems to have taken a step back. Even Oprah's closest friend, Gayle King, who had previously publicly defended Meghan, began to become more reserved. It becomes telling at that point, because something has changed behind the scenes when your most ardent fans begin to tone it down. There were also rumors that Meghan was simultaneously presenting similar concepts to several individuals. Ventures, collaborations, and documentaries. And while that is somewhat typical in Hollywood, the manner it was occurring gave the impression that relationships were being viewed more as possibilities than as genuine connections. The issue with that is as follows. Although Hollywood may appear phony on the outside, trust is still very important on the inside. People won't confront you if you give them the impression that they are just another choice on your list. They simply move away in silence. And that's just what seems to have occurred here. Oprah simply stopped showing up for Meghan. She didn't have to make any public statements. No longer alignment, no more evident support. And people take note when someone like Oprah does it. Oprah Winfrey doesn't abruptly end conversations. Her style isn't like that. She simply takes away access. To be honest, Meghan Markle seems to have experienced just that. Because the difference is evident when you look at 2026. Meghan had a lot of support from Hollywood back in 2018 and even in 2021. Real assistance from influential people, not just attention. It's mostly quiet now. And not the tranquil sort, when folks simply cease returning calls. This is the point at which the entire concept of the media shield kind of breaks down. Because it appeared as though Meghan deliberately created this circle by including celebrities like Oprah Winfrey, George Clooney, and Amal Clooney. It wasn't at random. These individuals have significant influence. Your reputation is safeguarded worldwide if they support you. However, that is only effective if the basis is strong. The issue is that, over time, both the public and those in that circle began to perceive things as less genuine. A few small details didn't add up. Moments that seemed a little too polished, almost as if they were planned rather than experienced, and stories that were later corrected. Even that straightforward picture of existence, there were rumors that some of it felt contrived, despite Meghan's best efforts to convey the garden moments and informal home scenes. Once more, I'm not arguing that everything was phony, but when enough minor uncertainties accumulate, people begin to mistrust the big picture. And that's a deal breaker for someone like Oprah. She has established decades of trust. She cannot afford to be connected to something that begins to resemble a staged story rather than an authentic one. Oprah is more than simply a celebrity, which is why her silence is so important. Her isolation from the industry is a hint of something more significant. It warns everyone else to perhaps back off as well. And it appears that's just what took place. Meghan is no longer present in those exclusive Hollywood circles. The invitations are no longer available as they once were. There is no longer any public support. Even the exchanges that do take place seem formal. People are being courteous but not intimate. On the other hand, Prince William and Catherine Middleton were pursuing an entirely different strategy. More consistency, less noise. Strangely, that seems more enticing now than it did then. Because this is the reality. Stability is ultimately trusted more than narrative. For a few years, you can craft the ideal story, but if it falters under duress, it breaks. And I believe Oprah came to that realization. She was not deceived in an instant. Slowly, she noticed that everything was out of alignment. And it's over for someone like her once that doubt takes hold. She won't jeopardize her reputation by attempting to improve the reputation of someone else. Public condemnation isn't even the largest change. It's the lack of assistance. Just distance, no silent backing, no public alignment, no magazine features. And that's the last phase in Hollywood. Because no one wants to be standing next to you once trust has been lost. It's dangerous, not because they despise you. In that world, reputation is crucial. Yes, the wedding appeared flawless. The interview had a strong vibe. The narrative was compelling. However, over time, the image and reality diverged. And even the greatest coalitions fail when that disparity becomes too noticeable. Oprah's decision to pull back may not make headlines, but it's arguably the most obvious of all.